We're going back to the SNES for the next game, titled Actraiser. Once again, it was published by Enix, and it's an interesting hybrid of a game. It's one part action and one part town building simulation. How the hell does that work? Well, it's actually pretty simple. First off, you play as someone called the Master. Saying this, you may as well be God. You live in a sky palace. You defeat evil with one swipe of your sword. You create natural disasters and weather effects for the townspeople, and they offer you power-ups as they build the towns. You tell them which direction to build. Yeah, you're God in this game. Since there's a slight bit of RPG in the game, I guess I should start off with the story. You are some sort of deity that controls 6 lands. Each of these lands are completely barren and taken over by monsters. It's your job to clear each town of monsters so that the humans can live again. After defeating the evil bosses of all 6 stages, you can get one final showdown with the truly evil being Deathtoll. Kill him, and townspeople won't have to worry about monsters anymore. It may sound basic, but for the style of the game, it works fairly well. So, this is how the game plays out. You first choose a stage. Any town can be tackled in any order, but some are better to start off with than others. You'll teleport down and enter the first action stage of the town, of which has 2 segments. The first action level is always to start the town off, and the second is usually when evil starts showing its face around the village. Anyway, you come some sort of strange looking elven creature holding a large sword, and fight your way to the level boss. Once it's defeated, you see 2 humans rejoicing that they're free, and they'll start humping and bringing the population of the town back up. At some point, some sort of evil presence will appear, whether it be in the form of a temple that people start entering and never coming back from, or just some sort of generic monster threat. In any case, building progress is halted until you warp back down there for a second time to eliminate the threat. After that, the city is usually cleared and you're free to move on to another one. Repeat this 5 more times, and that's Actraiser. It may sound repetitious, and the town building has the potential to be, but fortunately, each land has some sort of different roadblock that prevents it from being mundane. Of course, in my opinion, the action segments are far better because of the challenge, but the sim parts really aren't too bad. Because I do like the action parts better, I'm actually going to talk about the simulation first. Before I begin with that, you get an angel that assists with the town building. But wait, why is it Cupid? Yep, the little naked bastard is shooting evil with heart-tipped arrows. That just doesn't seem right, but you're stuck with it anyway. So yeah, for the whole game, you're staring at Cupid's naked ass. Anyway, your goal is to defeat the monster spawners and allow the town to flourish. In order to do that, you have 2 options. The first and easiest way is to lure your townspeople to the spawner and let them steal it. If you want to take the hard way, you can just sit there and defeat every single monster that comes out of the spawner. That may sound easy, but they have upwards of 100 creatures in them. So if you want to spend hours just sitting there and constantly shooting hours, hey, more power to you. When you're not stealing up the monster layers, you want the town to grow because this increases the population, which in turn levels you up. Leveling up only gives you 1 extra health point, but you'll need it. So you can direct the people where you want them to build, which is needed because they won't do anything on their own. You'll also get areas that are blocked off due to natural hazards, like massive deserts or wooded areas. This is where you, as the master, come into play. You need to use your powers to destroy these hazards. Got a massive marshland in your way? Use the power of the sun to dry it up. What about those trees all over? Just smack them with lightning to fry them. Who cares about a forest fire? Oh, and what about all the sand? Just flood it with rain. This process actually leads to my biggest complaint about the game. Just like in Illusion of Gaia, which followed it, why is it absolutely necessary to remind you every freaking time what each of the powers do? I get that knowing the first time is very beneficial, but why every freaking time? It kills the pace of the game, especially when you're clearing a massive area. Do you need to remind me what the rain does every time I select it? I don't think I forgot in the past 10 seconds. This flaw is annoying, but the sim parts are still pretty fun. There's always random stuff that will happen, and each town has a special plotline that helps make the game less repetitive and allows for a slight build-up to the second action scene. You're also forced to jump between towns to help them. For example, one of the towns starts fighting amongst themselves, and you need to go to another village where they create music. You then take this music to the arguing town, and they'll live in peace again. Another village learns how to build bridges, and you need to transfer this knowledge to the rest of the world. It's simple stuff, but in this way, it's not so dull. Finally, the people will find power-ups in random locations, whether it be just while they're exploring a cave or sailing a monster lair. Whether they find something, they'll let you know. You don't have to take it right away though, and they don't expire. Most of the power-ups are in the form of more powerful arrows, or a bomb that clears the entire screen. They aren't as useful as you would imagine though. You can also get extra magic points or spells for the action levels too. Let me go back to the natural powers again. Once you clear the land, they're not very useful. The Earthquake one is only required once, and although it joins two islands together, it completely destroys any houses on the island. So the people will need to start all over. The wind ability is the only useful one for combat, as it blows away all of your enemies. When you get lucky, the lightning blast can kill enemies too, but that's only on one square, so don't rely on this as a form of attack. I think I covered everything for the simulation part of the game, so let's move on to the more enjoyable part, the action scenes. This is where the game really shines. It's not perfect, but it's a blast. There's about 12 levels for the action, and each one is a blast to play through. As I said before, you control the master as he swings the sword, defeating anything that crosses his path. Most enemies do only 1 point of damage, so it's not too terribly difficult. In addition to swinging your sword, you also get the ability to cast some spells. These spells are limited and are best saved for the bosses. The graphics and soundtrack really flourishes in these levels though. Although the background music will repeat, they still fit the stages very well. The graphics on the other hand look phenomenal. As I said, the master looks kind of off, but the enemies in the backgrounds are so detailed it's jaw-dropping. It's a shame the sound effects are kind of lacking though, but that's a minor complaint to what I'm about to say is the biggest problem with the game. The controls are decent, but the jumping is just way too stiff. It's not like most other platformers where you can jump and then just change direction suddenly. Instead, in Actraiser, you move in whatever direction you were going in before you jumped, although the speed and degree can change abruptly. It's hard to explain, but it can be difficult to time jumps. The worst thing is when you're trying to attack midair. Sometimes, like here, you can be jumping and mashing Y to attack, but nothing happens. I don't understand why it's so hard to attack in midair. It's normally not so bad because most of the enemies can be defeated while you're standing on the ground, but you do get the occasional creature that refuses to come into range. Finally, the bosses can be a bit frustrating until you learn their patterns. In most cases, it's actually just easier to run up to them and just spam the attack button until they fall, because you'll do more damage to them before they can kill you. It's a cheap strategy that works, at least till the final gauntlet of bosses. That's right, once you've freed up all 6 towns, the final zone opens up, which is the headquarters of Deathtoll. Once you enter that, you have to fight all round 2 bosses one more time, and then finally the 2 forms of Deathtoll. You get 3 lives, and it's best to make sure that you save at least one of them for a Deathtoll. As for the final boss himself, it's difficult at first, but just like the rest of the bosses, get his pattern down, and it's ridiculously easy. He has an enormous health meter, but now your attacks deal 2 points per hit, so you can probably hit him for 6 or 8 damage before he protects himself again. Defeat him, and you get a lengthy ending where you revisit all 6 towns, and you go through a remembrance phase, complete with a moral of the story type of synopsis. It's long, boring, and not worth sitting through at all. That's about it for Actraiser. The story isn't really the forefront of the game, but each of the 6 towns does have its own storyline for the sake of the overall goal of killing Deathtoll. Thankfully, the game as a whole is pretty fun, even though there's some pacing issues with the simulation parts. It's a moderately lengthy game, clocking at probably close to about a dozen hours. I know some critics and gamers consider Actraiser to be in the top 10 best games for SNES. As much as I enjoy the game, I have to argue that fact. I can think of probably 20 games that were better. But hey, that's my opinion. And if you don't want my opinion, then why the hell are you watching this review? Final score? 8 out of 10. This is Reaper. Happy fragging.